Life is an amazing podcast, and it is presented and hosted by myself, Caro, and my sweet dog Sparky. Give it up for him. I hope you're ready. Enjoy. Welcome to another episode of Go For Your Life. I have a live stream at the moment with New Jersey, with the beautiful Jessica Stickler, who I love dearly. And what's really awesome is that I know where she is, because very recently I actually visited her beautiful home in New Jersey. And we're going to talk a little bit about yoga and veganism, and especially the connection with the two. So welcome, Jess.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, it is a pleasure. Absolutely. So I know who you are, but maybe could you give a quick introduction of who Jess is?
Oh, if I knew, I would tell you. The relevant information is that I've been a Jivamukti Yoga teacher for about 12 years and practitioner for just a little longer than that. And I get to travel all around teaching yoga, which is really amazing and fun. And yeah, I don't know.
That's who Jessica is. I think that's a good one. And we met in Australia, right? Like I think quite a while back.
Yeah, well, I have this memory burned into my mind, and the details that I remember quite clearly are that you were offering a vegan cooking course, which I wasn't able to come to the class, but you invited me to sit down at the table at the end of the class with everybody, and you served like the most amazing. Well, it was like a pancake or a crepe with some like raspberries something over it, and it was like so pink and so delicious. And Sparky was running around at my feet and like just being delightful. And I just remember being at that long table with everyone and eating this wonderful like raspberry crepe or something like that, and then meeting Sparky for the first time.
Yeah, it sounds like something that could have definitely most likely happened in
Isn't it so funny how some things like stick so firmly in the memory, and then the other person or the other people, like for whatever reason, that has just been in my memory been lodged in there for so long. Yeah. But it's incredible, like how do we remember the things that we do, and the things that I remember well. I remember like picture perfect, and then other things I forget, of course. But.
Yeah, I'm the same, definitely. I remember it really clearly as well. I remember you being there in Sydney teaching, and then you were already teaching some people in the room the Magic 10, but then people were still coming in, and everybody was really stressed, like, oh my God, she's already started. And you're like, guys, just relax. I'm just like,
Well, a couple of things is that I was used to teaching like 95-minute classes, and then I got to Sydney, and all their classes were 75 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh boy, how am I gonna fit everything in there?
Very creative.
And it was also like cold at the time. I believe it was winter in Sydney at the time, and it was really cold. So I wanted people to feel like they weren't just sitting in a cold room getting colder. I wanted their bodies to feel some heat, and I have this memory of David Life, my teacher and co-founder of Jivamukti Yoga. I have a memory of him talking about like when does the yoga class actually start? Does it start when the Om happens? Or does it start when you walk in the room? Or did it start a week ago when you put it in your calendar? Or did it start when you were a child and someone mentioned yoga and you felt interested in it? Anyway, it was this sort of philosophical question about time and about cause and effect, and how do we get to where we are right now? And that always stuck with me. So sometimes I play with that in class and have that as sort of a philosophical question mark in class.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's a really good way of looking at it as well, because it is like that, especially when does it actually start, like going questioning that was really good. No, but I definitely I was really impressed, and I loved how, our relationship kind of built from there, like how I then, came to do teacher training, and I spent time with you before my teacher training at your then other place in New York, and it was just such an amazing, way of getting to know you, and like being in New York, and a city I love and adore, and being in a center, and it was just like a really amazing experience, and always following you. But then, I started the cafe, and we hadn't seen each other for a long time, and then reuniting at Tribe this year was like so nice. It was really like, yay, Jess and Caro back together. It was really amazing. And then I'm so glad we got some adventures this year, and hopefully it shall continue. That's what I would love for it to continue. It was really awesome. And so what I was really like, something that you and I speak about a lot is also the relationship with yoga and veganism. Because if I was a random person, I would ask you that, like, what would your answer be? What for you is the relationship?
There's a couple of ways to look at it. One is that, yoga in some sense is about sort of increasing or widening our circle of compassion and sort of who we care for in the world. And, usually like we start with just like caring for ourselves because, selfishness isn't inherently bad. I mean, it's quite natural considering that like we only really ever see the world through this one set of eyes. So it's a very like unidirectional experience of the world. And so of course, our first instincts are to protect ourselves and to look out for ourselves and, to take care of our body and to, feed it and clothe it and defend it and whatever else. But as yoga teaches us, like that's a very limited idea of what the self is. And so as we sort of include more and more people, and then as we start to include animals, and then as we also start to include the planet and the planetary systems into our circles of compassion, that the practice of doing it, right? Whether you feel compassion first or whether you just practice not hurting other people, what that gives rise to inside of us is a sense that we are interconnected. And we start to conceive of the self not just as a self that's contained in this skin sack, but I'm not, myself does not exist without the rivers and the oceans, without the trees and the atmosphere, without like basically every part of this ecosystem on our planet is a part of my existence and my ecosystem, and without which I wouldn't exist either. So the sense of self actually starts to expand, and you start to realize that you can't do harm to another, even considering others to be rivers and trees and ecosystems. You can't do harm to those things without doing harm to yourself.
Yeah.
That was like a very philosophical answer, but
it's a very good answer, Jess.
Sometimes I get a little heady about these things.
But it's good. No, but I think like what you're saying as well, it is important because I think a lot of people kind of really attack it from another way. And this is actually really that the self is what we're looking at, and we as human beings, and Sparky's also in this conversation, as you can hear. He's like, yeah, Jess, I totally understand. I totally agree with you. Yes.
Well, just to bring it to I'm going to give like the complete flip side of like, I'm going to give a totally opposite answer now. The totally opposite answer from the highfalutin, like philosophical, heady answer is that, when you start to do yoga, like your body starts to ask different things of you. Like I remember, this might be a little more information than you might want to know about me, but like I remember when I first started like trying a class here and there, I was eating terribly. I was smoking cigarettes because I was stressed out and I thought that that would help somehow.
Mm.
I was, staying up late. I was just not treating my body very well. And I noticed like just literally my appetites for different foods like changed. My metabolism changed, and like what I craved and what I wanted to put in my body changed. And it did change my practice too. Like when I got, I had more energy, I had more I felt stronger on the mat. I was able to, twist deeper and recover faster. And like I felt all these changes just because when you're like twisting yourself up into you know, into a pretzel, and then you're like, oh, you know what? I think I just prefer to have, some, kale and French fries over, some meat or something like that. And also the smoking thing too. Like I remember it's almost like your body gets used to whatever state you put it in. So I didn't even realize how kind of just low level ill I felt all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of don't realize that either when you drink really regularly or you smoke really regularly or like whatever, your body acclimates to that state. And I didn't realize how poor my lung capacity was because I was just living and breathing and just existing in the world. Then I like tried to ohm, and even just in the ohm, I could like barely. It was like oh, and I could just barely get one beat or three beats of sound out of my lungs, and I thought that doesn't seem right.
Something's not really.
Yeah. And everyone else, of course, like you've been to yoga classes, like everyone else is like, oh, for like,
Ever.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I did give up smoking at that time. And suddenly, like, I could climb a flight of stairs without getting winded, and I could ohm without getting winded, and I could sing, and I could chant, and I could do yoga, and I could, it just like changed, it just changed everything. But it all started with my body sort of asking for different inputs,
Yeah. No, I think that's also like I definitely think that it's your body asking for it, and like when you start feeling like, oh, I can treat my body like this too, and then the effect it has on your body and your mind, of course, is
yeah, absolutely.
It's beyond everything. Yeah. And so, because for us, like we're Jivamukti Yoga Teachers, our teachers, Sharon and David, founders of Jivamukti, they also are strong animal rights activists, as we know. They really believe in, plant-based living and veganism and the practice of ahimsa as a very important part of being a yogi or a yoga teacher. How do you feel about when you come across, especially within our method, people that aren't? Like, is that something to point, like to think about, like what?
Well,
be vegan.
Yeah, I mean, I think I do think we're all everybody's in a different place with it, and I think like as long as you're like working on it and thinking about it and working towards it, I think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it. Like ahimsa is such a central tenet to the Jivamukti yoga practice in particular. Now, ahimsa, it means not harming.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a yoga practice, we undertake this, we try to restrict at first. We try to restrict the amount of harm that we're doing in the world. We try to lessen the amount of harm that we're doing in the world. And at first that feels like you're, oh, well, I can't eat this and I can't buy this wool and I can't, have this. And it feels like you're